Hey everyone, today I've got some interesting stuff, so I hope you enjoy, and let's go. So today we're going to be diving into this paper by Mijalis et al. What they basically did here is that they went and powered up the conventional peptide synthesis that we see around. More details on that later. Just a quick recap and some background info. Peptide synthesis is basically just getting amino acids and combining them to create amino acid chains. We can see here amino acid 1 and amino acid 2 reacting to form this dipeptide. And of course, in theory, we can keep on adding amino acids to make the chain longer and longer. Some coupling reagents we may use to do this are the species shown here, but there are many more we could use. Quick note that they usually add from the N to C direction, but we'll see otherwise later. We can do these reactions in solution like we see here. This is just a photo from my fume hood. And we can also do them in solid phase, where we use C-terminal amino acids which are linked onto an insoluble resin to solid support. This is the photo I just grabbed from Dr. Alan Cameron's slides, so shout out to him. And they both have advantages and disadvantages, but I won't go too much detail in that because I'll basically be focusing on solid phase. So what did they do in this paper? Basically, fully automated peptide synthesis which led to faster reactions when compared to the standard FMOC solid phase peptide reactions. They incorporated flow chemistry techniques into solid phase peptide synthesis, and they made a bunch of varying peptides to see how useful it was. Alright, quick short glance. FMOC SPPS is basically when we protect the N-terminal amino acid seen here so it doesn't react, and we react it with this fella. General procedure is FMOC deprotection, wash, couple, wash, repeat until we need a cleave from the solid phase. We can also protect the side chains seen here, but most importantly it's the FMOC protection we want to look at. The idea for this paper is based on previous multi-step reactions and current peptide synthesis advancements. In early examples, pre-activated amino acids were just circulated over and over the solid support bed for minutes to hours, and the resins used had to be the ones tolerant to high pressures. Now, Mijalis and co. went on to do more investigation to make this approach more flexible and more applicable. In their earlier work, they did manual flow SPPS, but as expected, only some limitations were addressed, not all. Control of temperature, amino acid activation, solution handling, and inline monitoring were all deficient. And obviously, since this was a manual job, human error and variability would be introduced. So, they went on a new approach. AFPS refines previous issues. Since everything is automated and continuous, things went faster, it was safer since no human handling, we could do more difficult reactions, and of course, products were purer too. AFPS also approaches green chemistry ideas as the reactions occur faster, which means it uses less energy and also creates less unwanted byproducts. Alrighty, now for the details. So focusing on B, we see the HPLC pumps which drives and merges the reactants from their storage. There are multi-position valves which control what starting materials are released. The amino acids go through an activation module which is heated quickly, and loop selection is decided by the column selector valve. Which loop to pass through would depend on the required activation conditions, since longer tube means longer residence time, temperature control, etc. This overall took about 2 seconds. They didn't really specify the flow regime here. And so the activated amino acids flow through a heated disposable reactor with pre-packed resins inside. This is for easy removal, and the amide bond formation is about 7 seconds. From here, the effluent flows through the UV-Vis spectrometer, and therefore the spectra can be used to determine deprotection efficiency, yield, and so on. Essentially, the inline monitoring allows us to get real-time data to help tune parameters and view reaction success. And this slide just shows us how long the whole process takes. So from the couple to the wash to the deprotection to the wash again, it's about 40 seconds for the whole process. PS was validated by synthesizing a test peptide, alfalfa and ACP. The reaction gave high yields and low side products. It was also found that halving concentration and volume of the activated amino acids still gave good coupling yields. So for even more validation to see how good this process is, they compared products from 3 methods: AFPS, batch, and from peptide vendors. Growth hormone releasing hormone and insulin were prepared and compared. It was found that AFPS produced products which were similar or better than the other products. Additional advantages for AFPS came from the possibility for UV monitoring to give approximate yields real time, and liquid chromatography mass spec figures showed that there was a decrease in byproduct peaks. And not to mention that AFPS was the fastest of them all. For both peptides, AFPS took in the minute range, where batch would take at least 30 hours and vendors took weeks to make these. Another example where AFPS gave advantages over traditional batch is the epimerization of cysteine and histidine products. Typical batch method shown here leads to 16.7 epimerization of the protected L-cysteine, which means the yields for the L-stereoisomer was effectively 83.3%. It was found in this case, increasing flow rate and decreasing residence time suppressed epimerization. Since the overall mixture would be exposed less to high temperatures and therefore decreased residence time, possibility of epimerization also decreased. This was tested with model peptides FHL and GCF. The faster flow rate reflected low epimerized monomers, with yields for the desired product incorporating the histidine and cysteine were 99.5 and 97% respectively. Finally, synthesizing difficult peptides was investigated. Complex peptide sequences can cause slowing down of the reaction kinetics for coupling and deprotection, which often leads to deletions and truncations. And also, complex structures are usually characterized through time-consuming methods such as LC-MS. And this is where AFPS comes in. We can use the UV absorption by the FMOC group to essentially see effective amino acid addition during the continuous flow process, as the FMOC removes to add on to the peptide chain. Effectiveness of the inline UV monitoring was studied using the JR peptide, a known difficult peptide with 10 amino acids. As a baseline, batch SPPS was done at room temperature, and it was observed that there were often coupling failures at the 6th couple, leading to tryptophan, phenylalanine, and threonine deletions. Now, as the comparison, the peptide was made by AFPS at 90 degrees. The absorbance curves for FMOC removal was examined, and it was found that the curve peak area was constant until the final step, where there was a sharp decrease. Further analysis by LC-MS showed that the tryptophan deletion was most common. It seemed that overall, AFPS in the higher temperatures used suppressed phenylalanine and threonine deletions seen previously in batch. FMOC removal signals were monitored during chain assembly, and was found that aggregated peptides help predict the final deletion. This was attributed to slow FMOC removal or reduced rate of diffusion through the aggregated peptides for coupling. From the data obtained, aggregation was the issue and needed to be mitigated. This was done by lowering resin substitution, where resins with less amine content were prepared. Figure B showed that decreased loading led to decrease in peak area change for the final tryptophan coupling, where optimal loading was seen at 0.3 millimoles per gram. Now this was good, as it meant that lowering the peak area shown here is attributed to the less unwanted byproducts. So to sum it up, automated flow peptide synthesis has a plethora of advantages over previous manual flow, batch, and older continuous flow methods. Summing up what was most notably seen in this paper, quick and fine-tuning, automation, real-time monitoring, and flow control seem to be the big key takeaways. They are now working towards the future where one day this process can replicate the efficiency seen in nature. That's it for me today. Thank you for watching, and good luck to everyone for the test.